I had worked myself in such a hard way that I was completely burnt out. And the universe had been trying to slow me down, I believe. There have been things that weren't working in my business, and I just ignored them and muscled my way through and pushed my way through. I was like going to pry doors open to grow my education business, to grow my licensing, to do all the things. And last year was the first year in my entire licensing career specifically where I could not get traction. I had this identity crisis. I'm like, oh my gosh, who am I to be teaching art licensing whenever I'm struggling with this right now? And I started to panic. I'm not going to lie. And there's just like, universe, why? Why am I not able to be picked up to be represented as a licensed artist?
Wouldn't it be nice if your art business loved you back? Hi, I'm Stacie Bloomfield. After years of trial and error and late night doodling, I went from being a coffee shop manager to running a vibrant 7-figure art business that I love. And now I'm on a mission to help more artists create an art business that they love too. So I invite you to find a cozy spot, pull out your favorite sketchbook, and listen in. It's never too late to chase your creative dreams. Welcome to the Art Plus Audience podcast.
Hi, everybody. It's Stacie Bloomfield, and welcome back to another episode of Art Plus Audience, the podcast where I am helping artists just like you learn how to grow your business, how to make money from your art, and how to avoid some common missteps in your career, because I'm going to be sharing openly and honestly about some boo-boos I've made and how I overcame them, and I'll be inviting guests on to help also kind of share their own experiences, because our goal here is to help you grow an audience faster. For years, I have been helping artists learn how to monetize their art, license their art, run a product-based business, because that's what I've done for 15 years in my company, Gingerbread. But one of the big issues that people have is like, how do I grow an audience? So that's why you're here. And I'm really excited to dive into today's topic. So what we're talking about today is maybe counterintuitive to the idea of business growth. But what happens whenever you are working diligently at your business? You're trying to grow your audience, you're trying to sell your products, you're pitching that portfolio over and over again using the techniques that I've taught you and leverage your art, and you are not getting any traction. Have any of you ever experienced that? I know that I have 15 years of not having momentum in some areas, and then later realizing there are other parts of my business that are going to grow at the same time. So what do you do whenever you have invested so much into your business and you're just not seeing results? I mean, do you work harder? Do you buy another program? Do you hire a coach? In some cases, yes, and yes. But there's something else I want to suggest, and that is taking a hard break. I was recently talking to one of the people that I coach privately. They are building a phenomenal business. It's one of the best business ideas I've seen, like ever. It's so fantastic. And there is no reason why this business should not grow. And yet we are hitting roadblock after roadblock in terms of like, we're defying math. Like A plus B does not equal C right now. So what do you do whenever you're doing everything right and you're just not seeing the traction? Well, my friends, I'll tell you that it's time to take a hard step away from your business and pause it and take care of yourself for a little bit. This is going to be about mentally needing to take care of yourself so that your business can grow and flourish. So I'm going to speak from my own experience. 15 years of hustling. So, we like to hustle, but then there's hustling for the sake of like being a workaholic. And sometimes whenever we want to grow a business, we lean so heavily into the workaholicism that we kind of lose sight of who we are. We've lost balance in our business. And sometimes I think doors don't open whenever we are completely out of alignment. It's actually like, I'm actually thankful sometimes in hindsight that parts of my business have not gone exactly the way I hoped they did, because gosh, I like to work, man. I get a lot of my self-esteem out of my work. I love to accomplish things on my task list. I've always been like ultra responsibility oriented in running an art-based business, even though I like to create and I like to feel and I'm emotional and all these things that describe me. When it comes to like the idea of growing a business, gosh, it just lights me up. It sets me on fire. But with that has meant over the last 15 years, I have come to the edge of burnout and all the way to burnout so many times. In fact, one year I burned out so badly that I had to take 2 months off of work. That was actually just in 2023, which I presented it to the world as a sabbatical, which it was. I took my family to Europe, saved up for that trip for 3 years. It was amazing. But in reality, I had worked myself in such a hard way that I was completely burnt out. And the universe had been trying to slow me down, I believe. There have been things that weren't working in my business, and I just ignored them and muscled my way through and pushed my way through. I was like going to pry doors open to grow my education business, to grow my licensing, to do all the things. And last year was the first year in my entire licensing career specifically where I could not get traction. And here I am, the art licensing teacher who's helped so many people in their own businesses have momentum and make passive income from their licensing and then use that portfolio to create other products to sell. But in 2023, I was doing everything right. Gosh, this girl couldn't get anyone to even respond to her emails. And I had this identity crisis. I'm like, oh my gosh, who am I to be teaching art licensing whenever I'm struggling with this right now? And I started to panic. I'm not going to lie. And I've been working so hard. And right before my sabbatical, I had this opportunity where I was going to sign with an art agent. I've never worked with an agent before in my life, ever. And I finally had reached out to someone and shown them my portfolio. And I was like, maybe we'd be a good fit. And they're like, absolutely, we're going to do this thing. Had a contract, thought it was happening. And like 2 days before I was leaving for my sabbatical, the whole deal fell apart. Shocked me. Did not see it coming, but it all stopped. And if I got to tell you, that is not a good headspace to be whenever you're going to take a break from burnout. I thought I was finally like swinging things in the right direction. And in truth, there's reasons why I still don't know why that deal didn't work out entirely. I mean, there's facts. And then there's just like, universe, why? Why am I not able to be picked up to be represented as a licensed artist? And so what did I have to do? I took my break. I stepped away from my company for 2 entire months. Now, I've disclosed I have a team, an amazing team of people who helped me be able to do that. And I worked ahead really far and called in favors from colleagues and did everything I could so that for 2 solid months, I did not work. And I really, really didn't work. I really tried to rest and take care of myself because I was just in a state of such burnout that if you had seen me right before I left for my sabbatical, you would have thought, oh gosh, Stacie's cracking. This is not good. So I went. It took me about a week or two, honestly, to shake off the feeling of rejection and the feeling of like, I'm not good enough and the imposter syndrome to finally not think about work and to get some perspective. And so, there's one version of this story, which I share, which is absolutely true, which is the vision board story. I'll do an entire episode devoted to this, but there is a version of this story where my sabbatical was the culmination of a vision board I made 5 years ago and all this hard work. And so eventually I was in Scotland, which is my dream place to be, sitting in my dream coffee shop, journaling, listening to a podcast. And it was like, oh my gosh, I am embodying everything that I ever visualized that I wanted for myself. But there was another reality that taking this trip was because I was so burnt out and so exhausted. And so instead of getting to be triumphant in my sabbatical and my dream trip, my vision board come to life, I was lost. My identity was so tied up with my work. The things I had always done just stopped working. And I just wondered why. And I journaled about it a lot during my trip. And I don't have an answer except now, in hindsight, I'll tell you that when I came back from my sabbatical, I was refreshed and recharged and had new clarity on other parts of my business. And my team can tell you I came back like a changed person. My friends can tell you I came back a changed person. And the momentum that I had in my business in all areas when I came back from my break was almost like otherworldly. It felt miraculous, to be honest with you. And what's even funnier is, no, I didn't get signed with a different agent when I came back from my trip. But all of a sudden, in the last bit of 2023, licensing opportunity, licensing opportunity, licensing opportunity. one opportunity with one client that is going to just be phenomenal. The amount of work that we have licensed with them. I think we've done 10 collections since we first connected at the end of 2023, maybe 9 collections. But we're talking like the kind of thing that you dream of as a licensed artist. It finally came together. And you'll all get to see that work in 2025 whenever it's released. With licensing, you work really far ahead. And then the products have to be manufactured and sold to stores. It's a whole thing. And I teach all about this process, and leverage your art. But what I can tell you is I don't know for certain if I hadn't taken my break, if those licensing deals would have happened. Sometimes I think that when we want something so badly, we almost like strangle it. We like deprive it of oxygen. We want it so badly that it becomes all consuming. And in truth, like when we overcare for things, sometimes, they die. There's undercaring and there's overcaring. Like sometimes when I try to keep plants alive, I think I'm doing a good job by watering them consistently. And then I'll find out later it was a succulent and watering it too much made it die. And so sometimes we think that the problem is we're not giving something enough attention. And sometimes we've given it too much attention, too much power. And so going back to the beginning of this podcast, I have this person I'm coaching, and they are working so hard in their business. They are doing everything right. They have sacrificed. They're on it 24/7. And the advice I gave to them is based off of my own experience of overwork and burnout and maybe focusing and fixating on something so much because you want it to work so badly and you've invested in it. I said, man, take a hard break. Walk away for a couple of weeks. Don't even look at it. I don't even want to hear from you about your business for a little bit because it's time to rest and it's time to regroup. And whenever you come back, you're going to have new clarity. Because when you're tired, the work becomes harder. The things that used to be easy become excruciating, right? Whenever you're exhausted, the idea of answering an email feels like it's all the brain power you have. Working on your portfolio, who has time to work on their art whenever they are uninspired because they are overworked and unenthusiastic and honestly doubting the dream? So rest. So step away and rest. Step away completely. Lock up the computer, give your iPhone to someone, and take a hard break from everything. I've learned this about myself. When I am starting to go on the verge of burnout, I ask my husband to hide my devices. Otherwise, I will spin and spin because I like to work. My body is just trained at this point. It's so reflexive. I love progress, but progress at the expense of your own well-being is not going to work in the end. It's not sustainable and it's not scalable. And honestly, sometimes I think that the universe closes doors to try to protect us from going to a place of no return, where we're no longer able to take good care of ourselves whenever we are making messy mistakes because we're so tired. I was making so many mistakes before I took my 2 months off. It was like, I was really thankful it wasn't worse than it was. And so taking a long break and then coming back at the goal with new fervor, with new focus, with new insight. That's my call for you. How many of you are where I'm talking about right now? You've been focused. You're doing everything right. The answer is not to throw it all out. The answer is not, oh my gosh, this is not for me. The answer is not that your work isn't good. The answer is maybe something else entirely, and it's not intuitive. It's take a break. Go get outside. Go create art, not to sell. Go on a trip, even if it's a staycation. Drive somewhere. Get out of your current environment. For me, I cannot unwind if I don't leave my house. I love my house. It's relaxing in so many ways. But when I'm in this place, my kids know and my family knows that mama needs places to go for inspiration, for rest. So I don't get caught up in like, I need to do the dishes and I need to clean up after my kids. Sometimes it's just a day of driving, going to Tulsa, which isn't far from us, to see family. You need that break. And whenever you come back, I want you to kind of be self-aware enough to recognize if you feel any different. Did you have any aha moments? Did something just click? Did you get a new idea, a new approach? Or this is my favorite, whenever you all of a sudden meet someone and the problem you had, a solution appeared right before your eyes. because the universe brought you the answer through a way you didn't realize it. I always tell my team that what we need and who we need always arrives whenever we need it. And I can't tell you how many times in my art career, whenever I have been looking for the answer and I put it out there, I'm looking for the answer. Where is it? All of a sudden, out of the blue, at a left field, someone will come, drop some knowledge on me, or recommend a podcast that has the answer, or I'll stumble upon something that just makes it all come together. And that's where I think the universe is kind to us. I think so. And if you can adapt this mentality that what you need is always going to be there for you when you need it, and recognize whenever it's time for a break and actually take it, not one of those fake breaks, where we're like, oh yes, I'm resting, but secretly I'm just scrolling Instagram and, taking photos and, doodling for my portfolio because rest has to be productive. No, not that kind. Real rest. It's what's going to get you regrouped so that you can go pitch that portfolio again with new clarity, so that you can create new, fresh art that has vigor and life in it. Because believe me, your audience can tell whenever your art feels sad and stale. Gosh, if you'd seen some of the art I was making during my extreme burnout, it was like the saddest art. There was a lot of typography like, I'm so tired and I don't want to keep going, with flowers all around it. Very optimistic. Totally would have sold, right? Maybe people would have resonated with that, but that was a peek into where I was at. And I want you to claim your personal power, to take the breaks that you need to reset and regroup so that then, whenever it's time, whenever you feel like you have fresh perspective, you can come back and maybe that part of your business that's not progressing will all of a sudden progress. I want to know if you've ever had this happen. So if you'll do me a favor and go over to Instagram and on the post on Leverage Your Art for today, I'd love for you to share if you've ever had this kind of experience where things weren't working, you took a break, and then all of a sudden you had fresh perspective. And I want this for you. I want you to have balance, which is not perfect. I want you to experience breakthrough. But most of all, I don't want you to give up whenever things get hard, because it's going to keep getting hard. And you're going to have seasons of plenty, and you're going to have seasons where it's hard. I was listening to a podcast called 10% Happier. It has a lot to do with meditation and mindset. And in the episode I listened to today, it asked what is happiness anyways? There's this idea that in life, maybe people who are killing it, they're supposed to be happy all the time. And in truth, what they went on to say in this podcast is life is filled with these ups and downs. We have to have the lows so that the highs feel more meaningful. And I hate feeling low. I want to feel good. I want you to feel good. But reminding myself what happiness truly is, it's not killing it and winning all the time. One of my favorite hype songs is All I Do Is Win, Win, Win No Matter What. That song? That's not reality. Reality is it's highs and lows, it's wins and losses. It's everything in between. And it's our job as we're maturing as creative business owners to recognize that, take the space that we need, and then come back stronger. All right. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Art Plus Audience. Do me a favor, give me a little like and a follow and a review if you feel like it. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, could you do me a favor? Could you subscribe to this podcast and then share it with one of your best art friends? I'd really appreciate it. And then head on over to Instagram and follow me at the Leverage Your Art account, and you can keep up with all of our future episodes. Thank you so much for your support. It means everything to have you here listening and learning. Bye.